Alright, so England and France are arguably two of the most influential countries in world history due to outstanding innovations during the scientific revolution and the Renaissance. Both these countries also had divine monarchies. One aspect of divine monarchies is that the monarch had all the power, deciding social events, religious tolerance, war, etc. This became shown when Queen Elizabeth I ran the island nation of England into massive debt in exchange for the people's happiness by blowing up theater and funding exploitation to the West. The people loved her.
However, things are not all sunshine and lollipops for England, as King James I, Queen Elizabeth's cousin and King of Scotland, and now King of England, made moves that greatly offended Puritans, such as making them feel unwelcomed in England and making the infamous decision to cancel Parliament on December 31st, 1610. Needless to say, without Parliament, the people became infuriated with the monarchy.
King James's successor, King George I, was not any better, constantly taking loans from Parliament over the 30 Years' War. His desperate war ended causing soldier riots all over the country, causing Charles to impose murder law on his citizens. Parliament refused to fund Charles any further until he signed the Petition of Right in 1628. This kept the king from infringing on many of the rights written on the Magna Carta. Unfortunately, King Charles did not even pay attention to the document, and, as a result, Parliament decided to lower the king's power, and, as another result, Charles forms an army in the north of the people loyal to him, plunging England into a civil war of Royalists against Puritans. Thanks to the smarts of General Oliver Cromwell, the Puritans were successful in overthrowing the Royalists. After a debate, the people turned Charles into one of the four beheaded English monarchs, the others being Anne Boleyn, Mary Queen of Scots, and Lady Jane Grey.
England is now in a rough patch after experiencing 2 generations of tyranny, and are happy to see the monarchy go away as Oliver Cromwell establishes England as a republic, instructing John Lambert to write the instrument of government, England's first constitution. Things were starting to look good for Cromwell's will until he ended up, you guessed it.
Tears up the Constitution and becomes a ruthless dictator.
Anyways, after seeing Cromwell's dictatorship come out of hiding, the people of Ireland attempted a revolt. It ends up failing miserably. Not too long after, Cromwell, hiding under illusion it's evil, banned sporting events in theater.
Seeing just how dire the situation had become, England's parliament reformed in 1658 and didn't wait long to ask Charles II to become King of England. He accepts, starting a period known as the Restoration. In 1679, Charles made the defining decision of his reign by signing the habeas corpus, which states that to be put in jail, one must have charges against them. The people were relieved to have a decent monarch after two corrupt monarchies and a dictatorship.
And all that was fine until King James II took over, making the ever so unpopular decision to dissolve Parliament. Infuriated and betrayed, a group called the Immortal Seven decided to ask his daughter, Mary, and husband William to
Come to England as an army to overthrow Dad. Boom.
who wouldn't want to overthrow Dad? So England is plunged back into war, the Glorious Revolution, in which Mary and her husband are successful in overthrowing James. Mary felt like being better than James, so she and William signed the Bill of Rights, which sought to turn England into a constitutional monarchy. Fun, right? The Bill of Rights delimited monarch's power by proclaiming things such as
The pretended power of suspending the laws and dispensing with laws by regal authority without consent of Parliament is illegal. The commission for celestial causes is illegal. Levying taxes without the grant of Parliament is illegal. It is the right of subjects to petition the king, and prosecutions for sex petitioning are illegal. Keeping a standing army in time of peace, unless it be with the consent of Parliament, is against law. Election of members of Parliament ought to be free, and the freedom of speech in debates or proceedings in Parliament ought not to be impeached or questioned in any court or place out of Parliament. The signing of the Bill of Rights signified that the people of England were keeping their monarch, but in a way that doesn't interfere with the work of Parliament. The French, however, took a vastly different approach and included murder and some very tiny disagreements along with that. During the 1700s, France consisted of mostly poor people, making up about 80% of the population. This is the third estate, and the third estate also paid 50% of the money they had to France, or, in this case, Louis XVI. This man spent a lot of money gained from lower estates of him to surround himself in luxuries, which are absurd. He built a palace in Versailles that would have cost about $2.5 billion today, and accompanied himself with about 500 cooks to suit his feeding needs. Many people disliked him because he was a bad person to run a country.
now the scientific revolution is spreading with ideas of how life works and answering stuff like where is Earth relative to the sun. This period is making people invent a new thing called thinking, and it's pretty cool. This leads on to the Enlightenment, which people think some more, but this time it's about society itself, and this hits France hard. This has people begin to think to themselves about why the monarchs and people near Louis as well as Marie Antoinette, are more powerful than a common third estate person. Realization begins as to how much money the first estate is taking in from the peasants.
More tensions rise with the French people as the American Revolution comes up, which is about Britain's American colonies breaking away due to unfair treatment. It sounds a lot like what happens in France, only domestic. After the war, and France's nose right in it, the war cost a lot of money, trapped France in the pit of debt. This money could have been used to help the French people with the recent crop disaster of wheat and not being able to grow because of the cold and the prolonged winter hurting the crop. A chain reaction started with the price of bread going up, as well as other foods, and peasants not being able to pay for the inflation of bread. So hunger becomes to become a pandemic.
Over a course of time, things get heated. In 1789, a national estate for representatives of the Third Estate is made and declares to end absolute monarchy. A few days later, people are gathered up at a tennis court to not leave until a constitution for the government is written. Of course, that did not happen yet. The mob of people were scared off by plenty of guards misjudged to come and kill them. Something different happened about a month later, after the tennis court oath. A bunch of people in the Third Estate were coming for Bastille, which was a fortress for prisoners and whatnot. As the angry mob of poor people stormed the fortress with knives, they are taking the guards' heads and other limbs and sticking them onto spikes to carry. Along with that, Bastille was being destroyed brick by brick.
Another month later, the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizens was created to show that all men are truly equal. Later, Louis found captured trying to flee the country away from the mayhem. They said beheaded Louis the 16th on a very head-to-head vote. Really? Head-to-head vote. Anyway, in the end, Louis XVI became beheaded by a guillotine, with Marie Antoinette joining him 8 months later. Overall, the reason that England was able to keep its monarchy and France didn't is simple, as explained here. For the English, there was a way to keep the king, but it took generations to work, while in France, the situation was dire enough to kill the king. History is weird in that way.